Okay, break it down a little bit here. I'm off the back shoulder of the defender, and what I'm thinking here is I'm making sure that he's always having to pay attention to me, because I can see where the ball is with the goalkeeper. If he wants to know where the ball is, he can't know where I am. So the ball usually gets swung out to the center back, so it gets to Fred. So I'm off the left side of my defender because I know that's where it's going to go. But once he takes his touch and opens it up, I know I can cut back across the back side of him if he sees it's on. But the midfielder is already taking the space in front of me, so that's okay. So he's in a good spot. So I'm really hoping to drag the defender out of position or get him to call one of his defenders out of position to come help him off their left side. So Don decides to cover on the outside of me, which means I'll back up because my center back has the ability to pick his head up and pick out a pass, so I can make eye contact with him. And as he looks and acts as he's going to approach it, I'll step off the back left side of the defender, so he has to assume, he has to be mindful. So look, he's checking his shoulder right now, and when he checks right, I step as if I go to the left, because that means out of his peripheral, he's assuming I'm making the movement back across his body. And then I make a hard jab step back in. So as you see, once Fred takes his touch on the ball, that's when I make my movement, because I'm stepping off the inside. I could have stepped a little bit farther, so I could have timed it a little bit better, so I was completely outside of his peripheral. But it's almost like boxing, where you're just trying to be right outside the range. So you want the opponent to punch, completely extend, and miss you by just a centimeter, right? So that's what I'm trying to do right there. That's that centimeter. So now he technically doesn't know where I am, but his assumption has to be that I'm making the run in behind him, because Fred has the ability to open his hips and play it down the line. So when I do that, I come back across. So you see how he has to make the step to the left. And once he makes his step to the left, I'm in alignment with my central midfielders who can pick up the ball in the middle. And I know with that separation in space, if my midfielder picks it up, he can now turn with it, and I can occupy that space underneath. So you see that here. Felipe does a good job. I know that Felipe has really good vision, so I'll make my movement off of him so I can get into positions where he can see me as an option. So I've created the space between me and my defender. Now the outside right back has to make a decision. Am I going to come inside to help there? And for here, if he's late, I can dummy onto Ima, because I can see off of my right shoulder that he's there. But the safer play is for me to take that touch back across and draw them in. And when I do that, now the center back is out because he's chasing me. And the right back is covering underneath, which gives opportunity for my outside midfielders and the secondary overlapping run that you can see over here on the side. So then I connect with Ima. And as you can see up in the back left, when Paul recognizes, so right here, when Paul recognizes that Fred isn't playing him, this is why Paul is going to be a very high-level player, in my opinion, is because his movement off the ball, he doesn't give up once he doesn't receive the ball, and a lot of players do. So as soon as it passes him, you can see his immediate response is to spin. Takes off. He trusts his teammates are going to get there. And now it's just a foot race between him and anyone else who wants to try to recover. So this guy's already on the backside of the recover. So he has trust and faith that when the ball passes him out, there's someone behind him that's going to do something with it. And Felipe had faith that someone's going to be there underneath, right? So this is how the defense chooses to adjust. Back out to Ima. Ima takes his touch. He has time to look, but maybe because he's not already opened up, right? So this is game of inches. But here, he takes the touch to decide because technically he's in a position where he could shoot. So he's probably thinking, do I have a chance to shoot here instead of playing that first one back across here? But if you notice, if he had seen Paul on the backside, this run here, first time back across, but because we have so much time and space, or he has so much time and space, he takes his touch in. This defender has to come underneath to protect, because remember, if you see there, Don got pulled all the way out because he doesn't necessarily have to track me there, but he chooses to, and the defensive group hasn't communicated with each other how to pass this on. Maybe I would think once he realizes that's the case, he delays, the midfielder drops and helps. There's a lot of ways to solve the problem, but this is how it breaks down and how it plays out. So now the center back is completely out of position, and this is one thing that I think most people aren't paying attention to or understanding. If you're getting the biggest athletic person who's supposed to command and protect the box out of positioning, you're creating space for people like Paul to come in on the back post, and what you can see here. So, all right. Oop. I'm holding this, so. Okay. So as you see, once I lay it off and I see Don has followed me, I know that there's space in behind. So what I do is I'm running to get back into the box. So I delay. So as you see, once I play the ball, I turn to check and look. I see Leo is also checking to see who's there. Everyone's seeing that Paul is there on the back post. So I come off of Leo's backside. I see that he makes the decision to step because Ima takes his touch forward because his defender doesn't step to him. So now I step in and make the run in towards the near post because it forces two things to happen. The backside defender decides to either stay with his man on the back post, which leaves me completely free because, as you can tell, Leo and Don are both looking at the ball, and this defender has to be cautious because Ima can just play the ball down the line. If he plays the ball down the line, then you see me coming there at the near post. But this is where maybe coaches are saying you have to make the sacrificing run or make the run to create space. This is what they're talking about. So once I see Don and Leo are both focused on the ball, I now make the near post run. And doing so forces Pedrosa, who's on the backside, he kind of gets caught in no man's land because he has to respect that I'm there and Don drops off at that post. But Pedrosa, at this moment in time, thinks Don's going to step because he can, from his perspective where he's looking, it looks like Don and Leo are both going to step. Don drops off, but since I'm running near, Pedrosa takes his step forward as opposed to sticking with Paul on the back post, and then Paul has a free header on the back post, and unfortunately, he heads it over. But if Paul, when he's making his run, he does a hard step in and sees that I'm making that run near post, he could pull off better on the back post and come in on the header as opposed to backing up. That's why he'd missed it, right? So Paul was focused in on Ima. If he had seen me, he could have stepped in hard and known that I was going to that space and then came there. If you notice, like, in case that is, I'm stepping hard near, and then when I look back, Paul's there, so then it's coming back, so to come back across just in case he heads it back down and across to score. So, and then, yeah, telling the guys that they did good because it was good movement and play off the ball.